Greetings. Alright, we're finally at the part that interests most people. You may have even skipped ahead to this section. Hopefully you went through the other meditations and practices and sections first though, because they all build upon each other, and it's really important that we gain that self-discovery before trying to focus on something as complicated and deep as the subject of love. That being said, let's dive in. So, as you know, there are different kinds of love. There's the love that we have for a romantic partner or partners. There's the love that we have for our family, our friends, and our children. There's the love that we have for humanity and the world as a whole. And then there's the love that we have for ourselves, or the lack thereof. Now, the most important relationship that we have is with ourselves. This is not being selfish. It's like the example or metaphor of the air mask on the airplane. If we don't have our air mask on first, we cannot help put the air mask on of anybody else because we're going to pass out and die. So we first really have to nurture the relationship with ourselves before we can really give something to anybody else anyway. Otherwise, this results in all kind of problems and issues. It creates imbalances, resentments, health problems, and it shuts us off from the light, and it shuts other people off from the life as well. It can create unhealthy codependencies, addiction problems, you name it. So it's really, really important that we first develop that connection and that love for ourselves before we can expect to be able to go and build a healthy relationship with anybody, really. How do we do that? Well, lucid meditation, as you have probably noticed by now, the overall theme is gaining a really strong, clear connection to self. Through that connection to self, we're able to connect clearly to spirit, and that way we don't get these convoluted messages that we think are coming from spirit that aren't. We're able to really tap into an unlimited sense of energy, an unlimited sense of inspiration and meaning and purpose and fulfillment. These days, and even in days and lifetimes prior, there are so many relationship problems and issues that arise just because people go into a relationship oftentimes hoping to find somebody that will fulfill them, that will complete them, that will help to solve these things that they feel are missing within themselves. And that's not what relationships are for. That is not healthy, true love. Relationships are when two complete people come together to give to one another, to help reflect the truth to one another, and to help grow on their missions together. Relationships are meant to be to add to an already complete and fulfilled life, and to enhance the experience, to share the experience, to gain another viewpoint and grow and see yourself through different eyes. But they're not meant to solve your problems or make you happy. So the first relationship, the first love that we really need to nurture and find and practice and utilize is the love for self. Meditation is a great tool for this because we're able to gain insight onto where our emotions are coming from. We're able to gain insight on where these hurts and these traumas are from, whether it's this lifetime or lifetimes before, and we're able to discover new ways to fulfill that for ourselves. When we start to look at life as means of fulfilling our purpose by being of service, we gain this self-confidence that's just unshakable. Because when we start to do things for other people without attachment, just through love, unconditional love, we gain not only an incredibly high vibration and a spiritual high, but we gain a sense of worthiness, we gain a sense of fulfillment, purpose, and we develop this really deep sense of appreciation for ourselves and who we really are. And we get to see ourselves through other people's eyes. So there's there's really no better feeling than when somebody is really grateful to us because we have helped them in some meaningful way. Um, so there's a lot of different ways we can kind of work on and develop self-love. But the first step is just acknowledging that without that love and connection, everything else is a hoax. So, and everything else is going to be very turbulent. So, whether you're in a relationship already or you have very involved friendships or family relationships, you can always take that time to start to learn about yourself and to start to nurture and fulfill yourself. A lot of us have habits and patterns set in place from this lifetime or prior lifetimes that we need to kind of redesign, that we need to clear out and kind of rework. And sometimes this just takes time. It's very hard often for people that we've had a certain pattern with for a long time to be ready for change, B, to recognize that change, and C, to accept that change. But that is not really our problem. As long as we're doing something in a way that is being loving and compassionate to these people, then we're doing the right thing. If we're doing something to support and nurture ourselves, then regardless if other people get scared or try to withdraw, or maybe some relationships do really need to be do need to go their separate ways, as long as we do things from the proper place, then we just have to have faith that that's the way that things are supposed to be. When we're talking about a love with a romantic partner, it's really important to remain conscious in that relationship. So often in relationships, we make this big commitment that we're going to be together for a set amount of time. Usually it's forever in this lifetime. Sometimes it's contracts that you make that it's forever throughout other lifetimes. But we don't take into consideration that people change and people grow, and maybe our paths are going to grow in a different direction. So when that starts to happen, people kind of become unconscious. Sometimes it's too painful to look at these changes and to communicate together. So people just become unconscious in the relationship, start withdrawing or ignoring each other, and they start to grow apart anyways. And there's no love there, and it's very painful. But if we stay conscious and communicative in these relationships, then we can express where we're at on a day-to-day or week-to-week or month-to-month or year-to-year basis. We can check in and say, this is where I'm kind of growing, and this is where I'm evolving to, and this is what interests me now, and this is what my purpose is today, and is that something that you can support me in, and vice versa. Listen to your partner, see where they're coming from, where they're at, and try to really be honest with each other, because with honesty, relationships can really sustain and grow, and you can meet each other's needs still, and you can adapt and meet each other where you're at. But as soon as we let fear take over and we try to present something that's not true out of fear of losing somebody, that's kind of where the problems start to arise. So being complete in ourselves and being secure and spiritually fed and energized to ourselves, we can come into that partnership and really bring light and honesty and love, and they can as well, and we can see how we can work together on some things we're supposed to work apart, and have a really deep, meaningful love and a spiritual love, because then we're both fulfilling our spiritual purposes of why we're really here, why you're really here. As far as family and friends loves, it's a whole nother deep subject where it's really about checking where you're at. When a relationship starts to feel more draining than uplifting and encouraging, you don't owe anybody anything. You don't have to stay in a situation. It doesn't matter if it's your parent or your sibling or your grandparent or even your child at a certain point once they're grown. You don't have to be in a relationship that is not healthy for you. You don't owe anybody that. That's not being of service. That's not helping anybody. That's hurting yourself. That's hurting all the people that you are supposed to be helping. And that's actually hurting the person too, because you're enabling them to disrespect your boundaries, to feed into an unhealthy pattern of one-sidedness where one person's actually not being honored. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of different dynamics at play, in those kind of relationships. And a lot of those relationships are people that you've had relationships with in past lives. So a lot of the people in our lives now are people that we've already had relationships with in past lives. And we've reincarnated with them to either complete karmic cycles, to complete sacred contracts, because we really enjoyed our experience with them, because we really didn't, but something in us was getting fed from it. There's all different kinds of possibilities of why we have the relationships with the people that we do in this current lifetime. But what you need to remember is that if it's not serving you anymore, by either learning from it, growing from it, being uplifted from it, or moving through something, or completing a karmic cycle, then it's okay to let that go and set boundaries. So healthy love in all forms has healthy boundaries. And a lot of times in the spiritual communities, especially regarding the next kind of love that we're going to talk about, which is the humanitarian kind of love, the affinity love for all things in the planet and all humanity, it gets convoluted that it's if we say no to something or have a boundary, that we're not as spiritual as other people, and that's just not true, because taking care of ourselves is the most spiritual thing that we can do. Setting boundaries that protect your emotions and your physical and mental well-being is the most spiritual thing you can do. So don't be manipulated by somebody that has a different idea, but maybe has an appearance of being more free or being more spiritual, or tells you that they are, or that they're free, and because of the way they choose to experience love. You get to design your own way of experiencing love. And through meditation, it becomes easier and easier to differentiate what's really important to you and what's not. So there's no wrong or right answer on how to love. Everybody loves differently, and everybody feels love differently. And throughout getting to know yourself and gaining that spiritual connection, you will more easily be able to recognize those people that vibrate in the same plane as you, that give and receive love in the same way that you do. So the love for humanity as a whole and a sense of affinity really comes down to non-attachment. So when we are able to finally get in a place of letting go of resistance to love, and letting go of fear, and letting go of attachment, letting go of expectations, then we can finally really feel that kind of spiritual love, which means that we don't have to approve of anything. We don't have to disapprove of anything. We can just be, and we can just rest in the sense of knowing, and we can just trust the spirit that we connect to, the higher spiritual self, the higher spiritual perspective as a whole. We can connect to that energy, and we don't have to micromanage or control things. We don't have to judge things. We don't have to fear things. We can just see the world as the perfect place that it is. And that doesn't mean that we have to partake in everything, or we have to allow everything into our experience. But that means that we're not going to spend energy getting sucked into things, and the ego's view on things. When we're able to really live through our heart center, it means that we're able to approach things from a place of love. So learning to seek the going with the flow of things, and really try to let go of resistance, when we really try to be compassionate and understand people and allow people to be who they are, and just offer, love and support, whether that's from a distance or a little bit more connected to them, is really the place we want to get to. We want to feel more neutral. And that is actually the best place to love from, because then there's nothing riding on it. People don't need to do anything for us to feel okay or fulfilled. We have that for ourselves. So it's a really more spiritual and stronger form of love. So hopefully this was helpful. If you want to dive deeper into this, you can jump into the book. I go a little bit more deeper into this and how you can kind of recognize the different kind of loves and how you can kind of nurture the different kind of loves. But the main takeaway I want you to have for today is to just kind of do a practice. So when you're interacting in your relationships with yourself or with others or with spirit or the world as a whole, and you start to feel like a heaviness in your heart or a resistance or a fear, just kind of be aware of where that's coming from and take a minute to do a toning practice and clear that out, or take a minute to journal out some of the things that are coming up for you of where that might be coming from. And when you're feeling the opposite, when you are feeling elated, when you are feeling joy and love and connection, take a minute to also recognize where that's coming from. What are the things in your life that are bringing you down? What are the things in your life that are bringing you up? And how can you create more of the things that are bringing you up? And how can you create less of the things that are bringing you down? And really start to pay attention to these patterns in your life. And through meditation, these practices, you can really start to clear out more and more of the patterns that are not serving you any longer. You're going to be able to dissolve contracts that you've completed that are not serving you anymore. And you're going to be able to shift into more productive ways to fulfill your life purpose and to support others and support the world as a whole through love, and to really support yourself through love and really feel that sense of peace and knowing and connection that you've been yearning for. So take a minute to kind of let this set in and do some of this practice. Maybe do a little 5-minute meditation on this. Maybe do some journaling. And then you can kind of move into the next section. Be aware of this, especially during the week. It's best if you can assimilate this stuff as you're going through it, because otherwise it's kind of harder to go back and try to do everything at once. So it's not a race to get through all the content. Definitely take your time with it. And tap into that, tap into your heart center. We're gonna go in the chakra module, which you may or may not have already gone through. We go really deep into the different elements that make up the heart center, different ways you can connect and to that energy. You'll meet the animal spirit guide that kind of connects to the heart center, different shapes and different planets to help bring in more powerful love energy. So I can't wait to hear about your experience with this, and I will see you guys in the next module.